All right. The world says, okay, no, we shouldn't steal stuff. We want you to buy it, but you deserve, and so buy this, right? I mean, that is the way that the world operates and throws everything they're trying to sell us. Is you deserve it, and you're number one, and get what you can get out of life, and it's all about you. And the Bible says, no, that's actually the opposite. It says it's better to give than receive. It's better to look after the interests of others than yourself. Philippians 2, right? And the pattern of this world is so different from the Bible. That's why when I speak, sometimes I see your faces and you're like, it says it. Yeah, it does. It's so different from the way the world does stuff that it's amazing. Like sometimes if you would just read this book by yourself, sit down and be like, all right, I'm going to read a little bit of this. You're just blown away. You're like, how could this be? This is so opposite than everything I've ever learned and thought and the way I act right now. Right? Jesus said someone like slaps you on the cheek, okay, let him have the other cheek. We're like, someone slaps my cheek, they're getting, right, a fist in the mouth. Right? Someone wants to take your coat. Jesus said, okay, give him your undershirt too. Like someone's trying to take your coat, he says, all right, take off your flannel and give him that too. What? You're kidding me. Someone tries to take my coat, I got my gun on me, they're getting it in the knee, right? That's at least, yeah, Dave said at least. Do you see how opposite Jesus is than us? And the way we change is this. Look at the next part of the verse. But be transformed, metamorphosis, by the renewing of your mind. Everything starts up here, guys. Everything. Okay? James lays out how sin works in James chapter 1. There's James again. He says, let me just read it so I don't misquote it. It's so good. You don't got to turn there. Here's what he says. He says, when tempted, verse 13 of chapter 1, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. Here it is. This is the process of sin in your life, in my life. Each one is tempted when by his own evil desire he's dragged away and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. When sin is fully grown, it gives birth to death. Okay, the idea is you have a desire, and then you start to ponder that desire, and then that desire gives birth to action, and then the action leads to death if it's sin. It all starts up here, though. Okay? It starts with a little thought. Why do you think that companies pay millions and millions and millions of dollars to get their logo everywhere? Everywhere. Okay, go Google and do some research on the amount of monies that companies like Coca-Cola and Starbucks and Pepsi and McDonald's, how much they pay to get their little logo, the M, the green Starbucks symbol, the Coca-Cola and in cursive, the Pepsi circle. Go do some research. See how much they spend per year on getting that logo as many places as they can. Why do they do that? Because if it's in here, that's where it starts. That's the first step to you buying it. You think about it. Okay, right? That's why, like 20 miles away on the turnpike, you see a little, this is coming. And you're like, ooh, yeah, I could go for that. And you start thinking about it, and then you're pondering it for the next 20 miles. Sold before you even get there. Right? You watch a movie. This was classic. When we used to smoke cigarettes, like we'd be watching a movie and they start smoking in the movie, and immediately, what do you want to do? You want to go have a cigarette or light one up right there if you're at home. That's the way it works. Is your mind? It starts there. Okay. The same is true for the way you are changed. You need. This is why I give out CDs every single week. This is why you're encouraged to not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. That's talking about meeting with other Christians, fellowshipping, and coming to church. Because every day, listen to me, every single day at your job, from the time you wake up in the morning, you flip on the television, the news, or you go out into the supermarket and you read the headlines, you are being pushed into that mold. They are trying to conform you to their likeness. Don't be self-sacrificing. Be selfish. Don't give your money to help other people. Spend it on you. You deserve it. Okay? Don't, all kinds of issues. Okay? And the deal is, only a couple times a week, really, unless you're like hardcore, you're reading the Bible and reading books and like hanging out with Christians, you're being bombarded with the world's way of thinking constantly from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. And maybe once a week for an hour you're getting a little bit of Christian thought. That's probably not the way to be transformed. Okay? So if you come in here and I'm like talking about sin and victory and you're like, that is so foreign to me, maybe it's because you're spending very little time renewing your mind.